It is time for our big stat. The Purdue Boilermakers into the Sweet 16 for the fifth time in 10 years. Only 3 schools have been there more: Duke, North Carolina, and Gonzaga. Boilers and Zags set to square off Friday in Detroit with a berth in the Elite Eight. On the line, it brings us to today's big interview. It is head coach Matt Painter, kind enough to join us. Coach, we'll look ahead to that game against the Zags in a moment. But first, I want to talk about this past weekend and the way you guys played. You had 2 really impressive wins. What did you take away from watching your team in those first couple games and how you fared?
Well, I thought we played well. We shared the basketball. We took care of the basketball, which is an important, piece of the game. We did a pretty good job on the glass, but just kind of took what each team, gave us. I think going in, with Zach's dominance, how are they going to handle that? Because you can't watch film and see somebody else out there quite like him the way he posts up. So, Grambling did not double to start. And then when we got into Utah State, they did some different things. And you can watch tape and kind of get it figured out, but you really deep down don't know what they're going to do. So just trying to adjust. And we've always talked about just take what they give us. If that means Zach's more of a passer, then he's more of a passer. If he's more of a scorer, then he's more of a scorer. But I thought once we settled into the Utah State game, that last 10 minutes of the first half really set the tone for the rest of the game.
One of the things that's really struck me this year, Matt, whether it's fair or unfair, I think it's just the reality of this business that you have chosen and that we're all in here, is everything about this team was about what happens now. It wasn't about the process. And yet, for you guys, it is about the process, and it's about getting there, and it's about all the things that happen behind the scenes that nobody sees to get you to this point and to get you to be ready. And so how did you kind of balance that with your guys? Like when you know that you're going to be judged on what happens in these ideally 3 weekends?
Yeah, it's so true. So true. What you're saying is because your improvement and your growth is the most important. And I always tell recruits that if your recruitment is more important than your improvement, you're going the wrong direction, because you always have to get better. You always have to keep working. And that's what we did, from the spring to the summer, our international trip, Zach playing with the Canadian national team, preparing in the fall, and everything leads up, right? We're not sitting there in the summer just doing workouts. We're trying to put in our stuff. We're trying to know just so we have that, that collective DNA as a group where we all know what we're supposed to do. We're all on the same page, and then grow through that. And now everybody says, oh, non-conference isn't important. But yet we have one of the toughest schedules and we're undefeated in non-conference. It is important. But what you get gauged on is at the end of the year, and we understand that. But if we just kind of find our way to the end of the year and we don't put our best foot forward, you're not going to be prepared when you get here. And, and it's a 1-game deal. We feel really good if this was like a best of 5 series with every team we play, a best of 7 series. We feel great about that. We felt great about that last year. But that's not the way it is. You got to play well in that 1 game that you're facing that opponent to be able to move on and to be able to survive. So our guys knew that, and it wasn't something we left alone. We talked about it, but not all the time, but just said, hey, we have to continue to get better. We can't keep just sharpening the pencil when we lose a game. We got to sharpen the pencil after every single game, really look at things hard and make sure that we're not having slippage.
You mentioned Gonzaga, and you've got them coming up here next. You already played them this year in Hawaii, a game that you ultimately won by double digits, but a game that they led for much of the way, or certainly a portion of the way anyway. You've already played Tennessee as well. You were talking about how good this non-conference schedule was. You have the potential of the next 2 teams being teams that you've already faced. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How does it impact the preparation?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if it is or it isn't. If we win, it's great, right? If we lose, it isn't. You kind of remember certain things about games. You go back and watch the tape. I don't think Gonzaga played that well against us, and I don't think we played that well against Gonzaga. It was an early game. I don't know if either one of us was quite ready for that. Like you said, they led for a good part of that game, and we were definitely we definitely played better at the end of the game than they did. But for the most part, neither team played that great. They're playing differently than they were then. They play three bigs together, and that's how they start. And they have a 7-man rotation. They normally don't get off of that. So like they stay with that core group of 7. So I think our focus is more really ourselves, just like I think Gonzaga's focus is really themselves. Like you got to take care of the ball. You got to take good shots. You just got to keep putting yourself in good situations. And in that game, I don't know if either one of us really did a great job of that.
One area where you guys have really evolved, and when we talk about kind of what happened last year versus where you are this year, it's obviously, guard play. And you were playing with 2 freshman guards last year, so I'm not sure how realistic expectations were that they would be completely ready for that moment. Not only have they gotten dramatically better, Braden in particular, but obviously you went out and got Lance Jones. How do you compare like where you are guard-wise to where you think you need to be? Like when you set out at the beginning of the year and you said, okay, this is what we're going to need to do in that area. How is it compared to where you'd hoped it would be?
Right. Well, I think we're better just in our knowledge of what we're doing and how we're executing offensively and sticking to our rules from a defensive standpoint. Lance definitely helped in that area. Fletcher Lawyers really shot the ball well. Braden has the ball in his hands a lot and is a very unselfish player. And he's a guy that scored a little bit more this year, and that's what we need from him. Fletch has really been a confident player for us. He didn't have a good game against Gonzaga when we played him, but then turned around and had 27 against Tennessee. Lance's ability to handle the basketball and also guard different people. And then also with Zach, like being on the floor and having everybody out there that can shoot the basketball really helps us, just not our guards. Mason Gillis, Cam Heide, Miles Colvin. We got some guys that can, really shoot the basketball. And then Trey Kaufman-Wren really gives us a bonus as another rebounder, another post-up guy, just another scorer. So I think it's so important. Gonzaga's this way. Creighton is this way. Tennessee's had some really, really explosive games this year. You got to be able to score the basketball, and you got to have a lot of weapons, because you get into games like this and people take some things away. You got to have other guys that can step up and make plays.
Coach, I want to leave you with this. What does this mean to you? I mean, we've talked a lot about Purdue and the incredible success and a program that's won more Big Ten titles than anyone. You and I are both close with Gene Katie. Obviously, you more so. He's one of your mentors, but someone who worked with us. He had incredible success at Purdue. He's in the Hall of Fame, for goodness sake, and he didn't make it to the Final Four. Like, what would it mean to you to get there and to do something that hasn't been done at Purdue in more than 40 years?
Oh, it'd be great. It'd be unbelievable for our fans. Unbelievable for Coach Katie. Like, he's, laid the blueprint. How he ran a program is how we run this program. We've changed offensively and defensively because the game has changed. Like, you got to be able to adapt and adjust and do different things in the last 20 years since, he retired. But it'd be great, because he deserved to go to one, and this would be great for him to know, that his program. And I've kind of always looked at it that way, and people always kind of push back on me. But, he gave a quarter, of a century to Purdue University, and really, worked his tail off to do right by our program. And that's all I want to do, is just do right by our program, keep getting the right guys in here. But it'd be great, but we've really looked at this as more of a, a 6-game run. And, now we're just a third of the way done. And, we got to just keep our focus on Gonzaga and one game at a time. But, I know our guys got, big time goals.
All right, Coach, best of luck coming up here this week. Hope to see you in Phoenix and have Purdue still be out there playing and representing the Big Ten. Congrats on a great year, and good luck this week.
All right. Thanks, Dave.